Having an exhibition this size in New York City, it makes my heart race a little bit. I wanted to be an artist since I was very little. It was a calling. I spent a lot of time alone as a kid, being in the woods all by myself a lot. I'd gotten bullied in school and I didn't pay attention to subjects that weren't interesting to me because I knew I was going to be an artist. Came to New York when I was 15 in the East Village in the 80s as a dropout and kind of found where I wanted to be. And then I learned photography. I found a school in North Carolina that would accept me. It was an art school based on my drawings and paintings, and that's where I learned photography. Once I started taking pictures, I never went back to drawing and painting. It was the collaborative aspect of working with people. I love the Renaissance. I want to do what's in my mind, and if I'm true to that, you know, you grow up and you mature, and you're not going to want to do what you did 10 years ago or when you were 20. You're going to change and keep growing. A lot of the ideas where I started, the last 15 years, they've really connected.
It's the first time we've done a museum takeover. I mean, David is one of the biggest stars of his generation in terms of photography, so he's the right man to do it. 40 years to the day, you know, a block away was his first show in New York, so it's a big moment. There's lots of layers to enjoy, from the very early days in the darkroom when he was at Interview magazine with Warhol, right through to his current practice.
Interview was the zeitgeist. It was the most important popular culture magazine, arts magazine, and it was so accessible. I said, I'd really love, you know, to show you my pictures. He just was like, well, come by the factory on you know, Union Square at the time. You know, and that started another avenue that I didn't plan on, which was doing magazine work. So my first photos were like the first pictures of the Beastie Boys. That was their first photo session and mine, and we met in Times Square. And it was also different than, I was taking pictures out of my little squat on 3rd Street, still doing black and white then before I even started color. That was the beginning. I always try to do what I think of as beauty as a tool. There's a connection between making something and having the faith to make it, and believing you can make that. I grew up at a time where artists didn't describe their work. The viewer is supposed to take it in. If it doesn't speak clearly to you on the wall, then you didn't do your job. Now I find that there's a lot of people wanting explanations and wanting more context in this fast world that we're in, with so much information, devices, images coming at us all the time, that a still photo will stop time. How do you get a viewer to do that? Taking an image in, much the way music touches people. That's the goal. To connect with someone is when art pieces, that's when it's finished. So hopefully there's some pieces in this exhibition that people will connect with. My mom was an immigrant from Europe, war, and my dad, was first in his family to go to college. And that was tough for them too. I didn't finish high school, so that kept that fear of not having anything to fall back on. That really kept me busy and doing editorials all over the world. Magazines were really happening at that time. Took that on feverishly as well. Just started shooting portraits and fashion and working for all kinds of different magazines and doing music videos. And I really loved doing all those different types of work. There is this adrenaline rush when you're shooting and you've got people on a set, everything going, and you're like, oh man, is this gonna work? Is this gonna happen? It usually does work, and you get better at it, as you get older too. Art history is a record of what that culture believes in, what they valued at the time in which it was created. As an artist, what can you give the world that we haven't seen that is going to add something that's going to be of value in some way? I have all ages come into my exhibitions. It's really great to see a whole mix of people, young to old, coming through. I would love to touch them more than maybe just saying, oh, I want to be a photographer, but really I hope people get inspired in all kinds of ways, whether to make art or they get inspired by the sort of narratives and stories I'm trying to tell. Being an artist is a calling, and if you feel that, then you have to do that.